A thug mocked a royal guard, confident the soldier wouldn't dare to respond. But when he raised his fist at an elderly veteran, the guard's silence broke in an instant. What happened next left the crowd stunned and the thug humiliated. The royal guard stood at his post, an unshakable figure of discipline and tradition. Dressed in his red tunic and iconic bearskin hat, he was the center of attention, his stillness drawing awe from the crowd gathered around the palace gates. Tourists snapped photos, whispered among themselves, and marveled at the unwavering composure of the soldier, who seemed impervious to distraction. But the peaceful hum of the plaza was suddenly interrupted by the sound of loud, heavy footsteps. A man pushed his way through the crowd, his broad shoulders and confident swagger cutting an unmistakable path. People turned to look, their murmurs fading as the man's voice rang out, sharp and mocking. "Well, would you look at this guy?" The thug sneered, his voice dripping with disdain, standing there like some statue. "What's the matter, big guy? Too scared to talk to me?" He was tall and stocky, his unkempt clothes and rough demeanor a stark contrast to the polished tourists around him. There was something unsettling about the way he moved, like a predator searching for prey. His eyes locked onto the guard with a mix of amusement and challenge, and a smirk curled at the corner of his mouth. The crowd's energy shifted. Parents pulled their children closer, while others exchanged nervous glances. Some stepped back instinctively, unsure of what the man intended, but the royal guard didn't move. His gaze remained fixed forward, his body as still and steady as ever. The thug took a step closer, his voice rising. "Oh, I see how it is. You think you're better than the rest of us, huh? Hiding behind that uniform, pretending you're something special." He began to circle the guard, his movements slow and deliberate, like a lion stalking its prey. "But you're not better. You're just a puppet, a statue in a funny hat. What are you even protecting, huh?" "Nothing." The crowd held their breath, their eyes darting between the thug and the guard. A few brave souls reached for their phones, recording the scene as it unfolded. The tension was thick, and yet the guard remained completely still, his silence unbroken. The thug laughed, the sound harsh and grating against the uneasy quiet of the plaza. "Come on, man, say something. Or are you not allowed to talk? Is that it? You're just here to stand around and look pretty for the tourists?" He leaned in, his face inches from the guards, his voice dropping to a taunting whisper. "Pathetic." The guard didn't so much as blink. His stillness, meant to convey discipline and resolve, only seemed to enrage the thug further. "Oh, you think you're tough, don't you?" the man shouted, stepping back and gesturing dramatically toward the crowd. "Look at this guy. Everyone's acting like he's some kind of hero, but me? I see through it. He's nothing. Just a guy who gets paid to stand still." The crowd stirred uneasily, their whispers growing louder. A few voices rose in quiet protest. "Leave him alone. What's your problem?" But the thug ignored them. His focus was entirely on the guard, his smirk widening as he took another step closer. "What's the matter, soldier boy?" he sneered. "Can't handle the truth. Come on, show me something. You can't just stand there like a mute forever. Do something." He jabbed a finger into the guard's shoulder, hard enough to make a few people in the crowd gasp. But the guard remained motionless, his silence unyielding. The thug laughed again, louder this time, throwing his arms wide as if performing for the audience. "See this? This is your big hero?" he declared, his voice dripping with mockery. "Doesn't even have the guts to stand up for himself. What a joke." The plaza had gone eerily quiet, save for the thug's taunts. Every eye was on the scene, the tension in the air almost unbearable. Some in the crowd whispered nervously, debating whether to step in, but no one moved. The thug's smirk widened. The guard's refusal to react only seemed to embolden him. "You're nothing," he said, his voice low and venomous, "and I'm going to make sure everyone here knows it." The thug's mocking laughter echoed through the plaza, cutting through the thick silence that had fallen over the crowd. Tourists stood frozen, their eyes glued to the confrontation unfolding before them. Some gripped their phones tightly, recording every moment, while others exchanged anxious whispers, uncertain of how far this would go. The thug, emboldened by the guard's lack of response, took another step closer. He jabbed his finger into the guard's chest, his smirk twisting into something darker. "What's the matter, huh? You just going to stand there? You're not even man enough to defend yourself?" Still, the guard remained motionless. His gaze didn't waver. His posture was unbroken. It was as if the thug didn't exist, as if his insults and taunts were nothing more than the wind passing through the square. The lack of reaction only fueled the thug's frustration. He paced in front of the guard like a caged animal, gesturing wildly and raising his voice. "You think you're better than me, don't you? Standing there all stiff, like you're made of stone. But I see through you. You're just a coward hiding behind that stupid uniform." The crowd murmured uneasily. A few brave voices called out, "Leave him alone." But the thug ignored them, his focus entirely on the guard. He leaned in again, his voice dropping to a taunting whisper. "You don't scare me. You're not some untouchable hero. You're nothing." He stepped back and let out a loud, mocking laugh, turning to address the crowd as if he were performing on stage. "Look at this guy. You all came here to see a soldier, didn't you? A man of honor? Well, here he is, letting me walk all over him. Some hero." The tension in the plaza was palpable. Parents pulled their children closer, whispering for them to look away. Older tourists shook their heads in disapproval, while younger ones recorded the scene with wide eyes. The air felt heavy, as though the entire crowd was holding its collective breath, waiting for something, anything, to happen. The thug wasn't done. He reached out again, this time shoving the guard's shoulder with enough force to make the crowd gasp. The guard's body shifted slightly with the push, but he didn't react. His silence was a fortress, impenetrable and resolute. "Oh, so you're just going to take that, huh?" the thug sneered. "What? What's the matter? Too scared to fight back?" The crowd's murmurs grew louder. A few people began to move closer, their concern outweighing their fear. One woman whispered to her husband, "Someone needs to stop this. What if he gets violent?" But before anyone could intervene, the thug raised his voice again, turning his anger into a spectacle. "You're pathetic," he spat, his tone dripping with venom. "You don't deserve the respect people give you. You're just a statue, a puppet on display for the tourists. That's all you are." He reached out again, this time knocking the guard's bearskin hat askew. The crowd gasped audibly, the sight of the guard's disrupted uniform feeling like a breach of some sacred boundary. Even the thug seemed momentarily surprised by his own boldness, but he quickly recovered, laughing loudly. "Look at that!" he shouted, pointing at the guard's hat. "Not so perfect now, are you? Maybe you're not as untouchable as you think." The guard remained silent, his posture unyielding even as the hat shifted slightly on his head. His stillness was unbroken, but the air around him crackled with tension. The thug's laughter faltered as the silence stretched on. He paced in front of the guard, his movements growing more erratic, his taunts losing some of their edge. "Come on, man," he muttered, almost to himself. "Say something, do something." But the guard didn't move. Frustrated, the thug turned to the crowd, spreading his arms wide. "You see this? This is your big hero. He's nothing. He won't even defend himself." The crowd remained quiet, their unease palpable. The tension had reached a boiling point, and yet the guard's silence remained unbroken, his presence a silent testament to discipline and resolve. But for the thug, it wasn't enough. He needed more. He needed to break something, or someone, and if the guard wouldn't give him what he wanted, he'd find someone else who would. The thug's taunts rang out across the plaza, his voice growing louder and more hostile as he sought to provoke a reaction. The crowd remained frozen, some whispering nervously while others looked away, unsure how to intervene. For a moment, it seemed as though no one would step forward to stop the escalating situation. Then, cutting through the tense silence, A calm but firm voice spoke. "That's enough." The thug turned sharply, his smirk faltering for a split second as he searched for the source of the interruption. An older man emerged from the crowd, his steps deliberate and steady. He wasn't tall, nor particularly imposing, but there was a quiet authority in the way he carried himself. His silver hair glinted in the sunlight, and the lines on his face spoke of years of experience, years that had clearly shaped a man of strength and resolve. The crowd shifted, their focus momentarily drawn away from the thug and toward this unexpected figure. The man stopped a few feet away from the thug, his posture straight, and his voice steady as he repeated, "That's enough." The thug let out a bark of laughter, the tension in his face replaced by mockery. "Oh, great. Now we've got Grandpa coming to the rescue," he jeered, turning to the crowd with an exaggerated shrug. "What's next? A marching band?" The veteran didn't flinch. His gaze remained locked on the thug, unyielding and calm. "You're making a fool of yourself," he said simply. "Leave the man alone. He's doing his duty." The thug's smirk twisted into a sneer. "Doing his duty? By standing there like a statue? Please." He gestured toward the guard with a dismissive wave of his hand. "This guy isn't doing anything. He's just a prop for tourists to gawk at." The veteran took another step forward, his calm demeanor unwavering. "You don't know the first thing about what it takes to stand there," he said. "The discipline, the training, the responsibility. You see a man in a uniform, but you don't see the sacrifice behind it." The thug's expression darkened, his bravado flickering for a moment, before he stepped closer to the veteran. "And who do you think you are, huh?" he growled. "You think you're better than me because you've got a big mouth and some fancy words." The veteran met the thug's gaze evenly, his voice quiet but firm. "I know what it means to serve, to protect, and to respect those who do. That's something you clearly don't understand." The crowd murmured softly, a few nodding in agreement. The veteran's words carried a weight that cut through the thug's arrogance, leaving the plaza in a tense silence. But the thug wasn't done. His face twisted with anger, and he stepped closer, towering over the older man. "You think you're tough, old man?" he snarled. "Maybe you need to be taught a lesson about sticking your nose where it doesn't belong." The veteran stood his ground, though a flicker of unease crossed his face. "Violence doesn't make you strong," he said calmly. "It makes you weak." The thug let out a low growl, his fists clenching at his sides. "Weak, huh?" he muttered. "I'll show you weak." Before anyone could react, the thug raised his arm, his fist aimed at the veteran's face. The older man's breath caught, his body instinctively flinching as he braced for the blow. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath as time seemed to slow. Parents shielded their children's eyes, and several onlookers shouted, "No!" But the punch never landed. In a blur of motion, the royal guard broke character. His hand shot out, intercepting the thug's fist mid-air with a precision that left the crowd stunned. The guard's grip was like iron, his calm demeanor unbroken even as the tension in the plaza reached its peak. The veteran opened his eyes, blinking in shock. Standing in front of him now was the royal guard, his tall, imposing figure shielding the older man from harm. His hand held the thug's fist in an unyielding grip, and the look in his eyes spoke of quiet authority and unwavering resolve. The thug struggled against the guard's hold, his earlier confidence now replaced with frustration and fear. "What the?" he stammered, his voice trembling. The guard's voice, low and steady, cut through the chaos. "That's enough." The plaza fell silent, every eye fixed on the guard as he stepped forward, forcing the thug back with controlled, deliberate movements. The crowd erupted into murmurs of disbelief and admiration, their phones raised high to capture the moment. The veteran took a shaky step back, his voice trembling with gratitude. "Thank you," he said softly. The guard didn't respond, his focus locked on the thug. His grip tightened just slightly as he said, You've crossed the line. This ends now. The thug, still struggling, looked around as if searching for support from the crowd. But all he found were disapproving stares. The thug's bravado vanished as he struggled against the royal guard's unyielding grip. It was like trying to move a steel beam. The crowd, frozen seconds before, erupted into whispers and raised phones, capturing every second. "Let me go," the thug snarled. "You're not supposed to move. You're just a decoration." The guard's voice was calm but firm. "My duty is to protect. That includes protecting people from men like you." With one swift motion, he twisted the thug's arm behind his back, forcing him to his knees. Gasps turned into scattered applause. "You can't do this," the thug shouted, his voice cracking. "I warned you," the guard replied quietly. "Now you face the consequences." The thug's struggles weakened, his confidence shattered. "You think strength is about shouting the loudest, picking on people who can't fight back?" the guard said, his tone steady. "That's not strength. That's cowardice. True strength is knowing when to act, when to hold back, and using power to protect, not to harm." The crowd applauded. A veteran the thug had targeted stepped forward, eyes shining. "You didn't have to help me," he said, voice trembling. "But you did. Thank you for showing us what real honor looks like." 2 palace security officers arrived. "We'll take it from here," one said. The guard released the thug, who was hauled to his feet, and led away through a corridor of disapproving stares. As the plaza calmed, people murmured in admiration. A father told his son, "Real strength isn't about anger. It's about control." The guard returned to his post, motionless once more. To passers-by, he was just another silent sentinel. But for those who'd watched, he was now something more. A quiet hero who proved that real strength is calm, deliberate, and always in service of others.